Most people don't struggle in love because they choose the wrong people. They struggle because the same emotional patterns keep repeating, even when the faces, circumstances, or timelines change. Hello, and welcome to The Love Edit, a space where we explore the psychology behind attraction, connection, and attachment, and make sense of the patterns that shape how we love. In this video, we're looking at why relationships so often end the same way and what might be happening beneath the surface. At first, the attraction feels exciting. There's chemistry, there's intensity, there's a sense of possibility. But over time, something familiar creeps in. The uncertainty, the emotional highs and lows, the feeling of trying to work out where you stand. And when it ends, you're often left with the same question: why does this keep happening? It's easy to blame timing, bad luck, or a lack of the right person. But what if your love life isn't chaotic at all? What if it's being shaped by something much older, quieter, and more powerful than you realise? What if it's following a pattern you were never taught to see? We're often told that attraction just happens, that we meet someone, feel a spark, and that spark is meaningful. But psychologically, attraction isn't random. It's recognition. Long before your logical mind gets involved, your nervous system is scanning for what feels familiar. And familiar doesn't always mean healthy. It means recognizable. It means known. It means something your system has learned to associate with connection. This is why you can meet someone new, and yet the dynamic feels strangely the same. The same emotional pull, the same uncertainty, the same emotional highs and lows. Your mind might say, "This time feels different," but your nervous system already knows the pattern. This is where love often gets misunderstood. Intensity is often mistaken for chemistry. That rush you feel when someone pulls away, the overthinking when replies slow down, the relief when closeness briefly returns. All of that can feel exciting, even intoxicating. But psychologically, intensity is often a sign of activation, not connection. Your nervous system isn't responding to intimacy, it's responding to unpredictability and inconsistency. Distance can feel magnetic because it activates longing. Uncertainty can feel addictive because it keeps your system alert. And calm, consistent interest can feel unfamiliar, sometimes even boring. Not because it lacks depth, but because your system hasn't yet learned to associate safety with attraction. This is why people can feel deeply drawn to relationships that hurt them, while feeling disconnected or restless in relationships that are actually healthy. What's happening here isn't just emotional, it's neurological. The push-pull dynamic creates a reward cycle in the brain that's very similar to gambling. When connection is inconsistent, your nervous system doesn't know when closeness is coming next, and that uncertainty is key. When affection, attention, or reassurance appears unpredictably, your brain releases dopamine. Not because the connection is secure, but because it's uncertain. This is the same mechanism that keeps people pulling the lever on a slot machine. Most of the time, nothing happens, but every so often, there's a win. In relationships, the win might be a message after silence, a moment of closeness after distance, reassurance after anxiety. Those moments feel intense, meaningful, even euphoric. But over time, your system starts to associate love with emotional spikes rather than emotional safety. You're not addicted to the person, you're responding to the reward pattern. This is one reason why calm, consistent relationships can initially feel underwhelming, while unstable ones feel charged with meaning. This is where attachment comes in. Attachment isn't your personality, but it does influence how your personality shows up in relationships. And it isn't a weakness, but it often develops in response to vulnerability. It's about how you learned to relate to closeness, to distance, and to emotional safety. Some people instinctively move towards connection. They seek reassurance, contact, and emotional presence. Some people pull away when things feel too close. They protect themselves through distance, independence, or emotional control. And some people feel relatively steady. They're able to navigate intimacy and space without either feeling threatening. These patterns aren't choices, they're adaptations. They're often formed early, before we had the language or awareness to understand what was happening. And once they're in place, they quietly shape who we're drawn to, how we behave in relationships, and what we tolerate in love. To make sense of these patterns, it helps to name them. Psychology describes 4 main attachment styles. This isn't about boxing yourself in, it's about understanding tendencies. Secure attachment tends to feel comfortable with closeness and space. Connection feels safe rather than overwhelming. Anxious attachment often experiences closeness as precious and fragile. There can be a heightened sensitivity to distance, changes in tone, or emotional availability. Avoidant attachment often values independence and emotional control. Closeness can feel suffocating even when it's wanted. And fearful avoidant attachment can move between both, wanting intimacy deeply but finding it frightening when it arrives. Most people don't fit neatly into one category, and these patterns can shift over time. But understanding which tendencies show up for you and for the people you're drawn to can explain a great deal about why relationships unfold the way they do. This is something that we'll explore much more deeply in future videos. Without understanding attachment, love can feel confusing and exhausting. You might find yourself overanalyzing messages, questioning your needs, second-guessing your reactions. Or you might feel overwhelmed by closeness and unsure why. Needing space but not knowing how to ask for it. Pulling away and then feeling guilty for doing so. Breakups can feel devastating, not just because of loss, but because they activate something deeper, a sense of abandonment, a fear of being too much, or a fear of losing yourself. When these patterns aren't named, they can feel personal and permanent, but when they're understood, the confusion begins to soften. Not because relationships become easy, but because they start to make sense. When you understand attachment, love stops feeling random. You begin to see patterns instead of problems, responses instead of rejections, protection instead of personal failure. This doesn't make relationships effortless, but it does make them clearer. And clarity is often the first step towards change. On this channel, we explore attraction, connection, and attachment in a way that helps you understand yourself and your relationships more deeply, so you can stop guessing and start knowing.